Part 110. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1128. Reward 1, you can increase Source S ability Kimin LV4, proficiency 2/5, to the full level. Reward 2, you can upgrade Source S abilities. Reward 3, you can advance Source S ability, Heaven's Blessing. When you choose the above rewards, your 7-star destiny will be replenished. Su Tong's eyes lit up when he saw the prompt from the prop book. He weighed the 3 rewards for a moment before choosing reward 1. He wants to improve Kimin's ability to the full level. Kimin has the ability to change destiny. The further you go, the harder it becomes to upgrade. You can gain proficiency by changing some of a person's destiny. But after you upgrade Kimin to LV4, you need to change the national destiny if you want to gain proficiency. Now that he wants to change his destiny, Kimin is the best ability, and Su Tong needs to upgrade it to the full level. Following Su Tong's choice, the 7 stars on his head began to be replenished. Originally there was only 1 gloomy Baidu, but now it has been completed to 7. If you use the Book of Destiny again, you can directly sacrifice 7 destiny points in exchange for a more powerful destiny blessing. Ding! The skill Kimin has been upgraded to the full level, and the skill has transformed, Kinkan Kimin. Kinkan Kimin, a node that can easily sense the direction of fortune in all realms and discover the changing direction of the canal. The moment the prompt sounded, many slender hair-like lines suddenly appeared in front of Su Tong's eyes. When Su Tong's finger touched one of the lines, his consciousness instantly observed a farmer on the other end of the line. The process from birth to the end of life was clearly seen by Su Tong in an instant. This is the Kinkan Kimin. Through these threads, one can observe the destiny of every life form in this world. At this time, Su Tong noticed that the fate of most of the people was gray, and their lives would disappear in an instant in a force that would destroy the world in half a month. Sure enough, Li Ziu is right. The fate of this world is destined to be destroyed. Su Tong kept observing the lines in front of him, trying to find something unique among them. But without exception, everything is gray. The lives in this world have long been integrated with the world. When the world is destroyed, they will not be spared. But at this time, Su Tong noticed several slender lines of different colors. One of them was bright green, which was obviously out of tune with the surrounding gray lines. Su Tong put his finger on it and instantly saw Li Bo's life. From the time he was born until he met Su Tong in school, his rough appearance hid a fragile heart until he became a player. After meeting Su Tong, this guy was unlucky for a long time. But as time went by, not only did they can turn misfortune into good fortune, and invisibly add a lot of blessings to themselves. Until this moment, Li Bo had been stripped naked and pressed into a huge water tank by Li Ziu. Even though Li Bo was moaning in pain, Li Ziu showed no mercy at all. There were several graceful girls soaking in the big water tank with Li Bo, but these girls were incomparable. Li Bo didn't enjoy it that much. They kept making weird curse marks and blending them into the water tank, making the color in the water tank darker and darker. It seemed that some secret method was being used to inject the inheritance of the Li Wu clan into Li Bo's body. This guy is really lucky. After Su Tong saw it, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If he hadn't repeatedly robbed Li Bo, I am afraid that with his luck, this kid would have soared into the sky and become a strong man in his own right. But now it seems that it is not bad. At least throw Li Bo out. I am afraid that even in a first-line team like the Gun Gods, Li Bo's strength is definitely among the best. With the Li Wu inheritance this time, Su Tong dares to say that even Meng, the deputy leader of the Gun Gods, Chang Sheng may not be Li Bo's opponent. After letting go of Li Bo's fate, Su Tong looked back and found that Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai were already walking down the mountain, cursing. After the two saw Su Tong, they glared at each other fiercely, and then walked to Su Tong in a hurry. Su Tong originally wanted to ask the two how many trees they found and what they saw in the fruits, but the two seemed to have discussed it long ago and remained silent about it, refusing to explain clearly to Su Tong. This time Su Tong stopped asking. Although he could get the answer he wanted by observing their fate through the threads on their bodies, doing so was too disrespectful to the two. Where is the Taoist priest? Gao Zhou looked around, but saw no Taoist priest. There was only a thatched house left here. Haha, there has never been a Taoist priest. Yuan is a Taoist priest. Just as the two didn't want to tell Su Tong what they saw, Su Tong was equally unwilling to tell them their ending. He does not agree with the fate he sees. Since the future can be changed, so can fate. And Source appeared to break fate. As for this Taoist priest, although he does not know his origin, Su Tong's understanding is that this person may be a part of Source, and only with a complete Source can one come to this place to see him. Understand fate and break it? It's just that whether it is the Queen Mother of the West, the Prince of Taishan Mansion, or even his cheap uncle, the old magic stick, they all have insight into their fate, but in the end they do not choose to change it. In other words, they tried, but failed. Boss, are we going to Mount Tai next? Gao Zhou asked, pointing to the top of Mount Tai above his head. No, let's go back to Enyi. Since Taishan's journey has seen his fate, he should then find a way to overturn it. As for the bronze door on the top of Kunlun Mountain, Su Tong was not interested. He estimated that in the end, the heaven and earth would be shattered and all realms would be destroyed. However, the Queen Mother of the West and other gods must have escaped into it. He wanted to hide in with a group of people, but he could not necessarily a good outcome. He thought of the Taoist priest's words, and the answer lay within himself. This question troubled him. The fool buried himself in the Wangchuan River for thousands of years, just to tell himself an answer, but until now, he still doesn't understand what answer the fool wants to give himself. Thinking of these things, Su Tong felt a little manic in his heart. He was so manic that he wanted to return to Enyi. He wanted to change the ending of the world's destruction. If you can't even change this result, why should you change your destiny? As for how to change, isn't there still half a month left? With Kinkan Kimin, maybe I can find a way to change. The three of them used the teleportation beacon to return directly to the Sun battleship, and then took the Sun battleship directly back to Enyi. At the same time, in the other world, densely packed players have gathered here. Behind them are sacrificial monuments bearing the seals of countless gods. Everyone looks at the crack in front of them with expectant eyes, wanting to catch a glimpse of the gods' style, and of course the endless benefits promised. A huge crack opened, and everyone looked up at the huge giant coming out of the crack in front of them. Circles of dark clouds rolled up in the sky, a ray of fire fell from the sky, and a person appeared on the Tianzhen Tower out of thin air. This person has appeared, with huge divine power sweeping across the sky. The players who were waiting for the arrival of the god suddenly felt their bodies sink, and they all fell to their knees involuntarily. The huge sense of oppression made it almost impossible for everyone to breathe, and the original inner expectations for the gods turned into huge fear at this moment. I saw the figure of this god gradually shrinking, revealing his true appearance. He is about 10 feet tall and has a handsome appearance, but he has a bit of evil aura. A crimson crystal the size of a child's fist grew between his eyebrows. Through the crystal, one could see circles of red light rippling in his brain, like a sea of fire. Her long hair danced freely, so imposing, so arrogant, and quite arrogant. Who is your person in charge? Ask him to come here to pay homage. I am the 36th General of the Lei Department, General Tai Sui, and I have been ordered to come here. He raised his head and looked at the sky, with such arrogance that he could almost make a hole in the sky. As for the players kneeling before him, he didn't even look at them. To him, these were just ants like tools. See the general. Bulyuan took the core members to the high platform to pay homage. Seeing Buletinluan, the general's expression softened a little. After all, players who can become gods have achieved a class leap and can barely be called gods. You have done a good job. Kunlun is very satisfied with your speed. Next, your task is divided into two. Some people will arrange the memorial monuments on these worlds according to this boundary map, and the other people will all rush to the various worlds. God's battlefield is at your disposal. With that said, he took out a roll of decree from his sleeve and handed it to Bulyuan. Buletinluan received the decree respectfully, then raised his head in confusion. "General, didn't you agree to reward us?" General Taisui frowned when he heard this. Isn't it said that this person is very deep in the city and has quick thinking? How could he ask such a stupid question at this time? Sure enough, mortals are mortals. Even if you become a god, you can't change your mortal vision. Thinking of this, General Taisui smiled contemptuously. "Reward, you can become players and have power beyond the world. This in itself is the love of the gods for you. You are asked to do something, and you just talk about rewards. Humph, stupid." As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes suddenly widened, and all the players raised their heads and glared at the Taisui general in front of them. Buletinluan stood up fiercely and said, "We become players, but we also bring convenience to the gods. Since we have completed the task, we should be given the original reward." When Buletinluan said these words, General Taisui's face suddenly darkened. "How dare you? How dare you disobey the gods?" The roar was such that everyone's eardrums were torn, their internal organs felt like they had been punched, their heads were buzzing, and they all fell to the ground. Bulyuan endured the discomfort and wanted to argue, but he didn't know that he was punched by General Taisui and flew 1,000 meters away without opening his mouth. Then he stepped on the fence of the altar, like an evil demon, looking down at the players in front of him arrogantly, a group of immature livestock, without thinking about the grace of the gods, and dare to ask for benefits. Whoever dares to disobey the order, kill no mercy. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1129. Boss, if you want to change the outcome of this world, it might be a bit difficult for just a few of us. On the Sun battleship, Su Tong expressed his thoughts to everyone. But when they learned that Su Tong wanted to change the fate of the world, although everyone supported him, they were unable to do anything. If you want to change the outcome, you must first figure out what happened and what caused the destruction of this world. As he spoke, Su Tong walked to the edge of the battleship's deck. Under the blessing of Kinkan Kimin, Su Tong's eyes were as bright as lightning, and tens of thousands of lines in the world appeared in front of him. Looking around, the whole world is covered in gray, and the terminals of these lines converge in Enyi City. After all, it is the center of the world, where the world's wealth, population, and resources gather. Su Tong originally wanted to find a few powerful people directly through these lines, and see from their fate how the world was destroyed. But there are too many people here, and the lines are too messy one after another, making Su Tong unable to start. So we can only wait until they enter Enyi and then search slowly. With the experience of entering the city last time, it will be much more convenient for Su Tong and the others to enter the city this time. Su Tong directly reported Xin Tian Daifeng's name, and the soldier responsible for guarding immediately invited them in respectfully. They looked panicked and their eyes were full of awe. It turns out that during the time Su Tong and the others left, Xin Tian Daifeng had already begun his brutal and inhumane revenge. For this reason, Xin Tian Daifeng turned the entire Enyi into a state of turmoil. Even though the king finally came forward to calm things down, he still managed to catch the original culprits. These culprits who plotted against Xin Tian Daifeng were also nobles with prominent status in Daxia. Xin Tian Daifeng not only took out their souls and made a soul lantern to hang at the door of his yard. The soul lamp was lit day and night, torturing their souls all the time, but this could not calm Xin Tian Daifeng's anger, and then he found all the relatives of these people. These people were fed a special potion, their limbs were twisted into twists, their heads were beheaded, and then their heads were sewn back together. These people did not die. They were protected by special potions. After their heads were resutured, they were still no different from normal people. Then an iron nail was pierced through his spine and he was nailed to a square where he was exposed to the sun, moon, wind, and rain. As time goes by, their physical bodies will begin to decay rapidly, but their consciousness is still very clear. They can only watch their bodies become moldy, smelly, and rotten. During this process, they will clearly feel the entire process of decay. It can no longer be described as cruel, it can only be described as heart-rending. It is precisely because of this that the evil reputation of the Xin Tian family was once again pushed to its peak. Xin Tian Daifeng, who had been forgotten by people, once again became famous in the Xia dynasty. His past glorious deeds were constantly exposed by people. Only then did people know that this master's the ferocity is so horrific. Strolling on the street, Su Tong did not go straight to Xin Tian Daifeng immediately. He silently observed every pedestrian passing by on the street, trying to find some clues. But it is a pity that most people on the street did not bring a different color to Su Tong. It wasn't until Su Tong came to Xin Tian Daifeng's house and met Xin Tian Daifeng that Su Tong saw a little bit of difference in the sky. The lines on other people's bodies are mostly gray, but the lines on this guy's body are blood red. Ha ha ha, brother Su, you have been gone for more than half a month, I thought it would take a while before you come back. Xin Tian Daifeng's faces were full of joy when he saw Su Tong and the others. He pulled Su Tong and the others into the room, shouting for drinks as they walked. Su Tong also took this opportunity to put his hand on the red line behind Xin Tian Daifeng. When his fingers touched the red line, a bloody world appeared in front of Su Tong's eyes. Ancient songs rippled in the black sky along with the sound of war drums. I saw Xin Tian Daifeng standing on the altar made of corpses, shirtless and looking crazy, like a madman who was suffering from a disease, twisting his body and beating wildly. At the same time, under the altar, the densely packed slaves were pushed forward until they reached the executioner in front. They knelt numbly on the ground and were decapitated by the executioner. Their heads rolled in the deep ditch aside, and the bodies were discarded in another place. A pothole on the side. The bright red blood gathered into a river, filling up the 10-acre trench in front of the altar. These trenches were 1 meter wide and 7 meters deep. When filled with blood, they formed a huge spell. As Xin Tian Daifeng formed a seal with his hands, the whole world was engulfed in a red blood light. Xin Tian Daifeng himself was also in the blood light, his body was shattered, but his spirit controlled the blood light and rushed straight into it. The sky finally tore open the dark chaos, and with endless roars, it killed one person. Just as the figure slowly turned around, Su Tong frowned. It turned out to be the old magic stick, Kong. It's him. Could it be that the destruction of this world is because of the old magic stick? Thinking about it carefully, Su Tong didn't think there was any surprise. Niu Niu had already caught up with her last time, but she was seriously injured by him using the incompetent divine light. Now that it had been so long, he was not surprised at all by the appearance of the old magic stick. I saw the old magic stick raised his hand and slapped it, and the surrounding time formed a chaos. In the fast and slow times, they rubbed each other and formed different cuts. In the end, only a blood bead was left that could touch the old magic stick. This method is very similar to my Jijo. Su Tong carefully observed the scene of the old magic stick taking action, and found that the old magic stick used time to an incredible level. The seemingly chaotic time formed a staggered layer of fast and slow, which caused Xin Tian Daifeng's power to be continuously divided and torn apart. In the end, the blow that was enough to kill a god was easily resolved by the old magic stick. This move is similar to his own sword technique, but it is simpler and easier than his own sword technique. As the saying goes, simplicity leads to greatness. Su Tong was observing the old magic stick's skills at this moment, and he had to admit that in front of the old magic stick, his Jijo was probably like a 3-year-old child dancing with a sword. But knowing that it was the old magic stick, Su Tong probably already had an idea in his mind. Why not take this opportunity to ambush this old guy here? If he relied on an inch of time and forced his thoughts to observe the future, he would definitely be noticed by the old magic stick. However, he found that the old magic stick did not seem to notice the future he observed through other people's fate lines. Otherwise, when I observe him at this moment, he will have already taken action against me. This is probably the blind spot of the old magic stick, and it is also his magic weapon to win. Thinking of this, Su Tong waved his hand and said to Xin Tian Daifeng, I don't know what happened to my brother when he stayed with Li Ziu last time. I want to go to Li Wu Palace. Can you take me there to see it? Since you can observe the future through the fate of others, and you don't have to worry about being detected by the god of time like Lao Shengun, why not take this opportunity to observe more of Lao Shengun's abilities? Know yourself and your enemy and you will win every battle. This old guy made me miserable. Even if it was just to vent his anger, I would take revenge on this old guy. It's simple. I'll give you a copy of the door sticker of Xiang Liu's house, and you can go in. Because of your brothers, I guess Li Wu Palace won't make things difficult for you. As for me, he. Xin Tian Daifeng said quickly that he could not go to Li Wu Palace because the enemy he killed this time was a witch ancestor from Li Wu Palace. I should have thought of it a long time ago. This god-stealing curse is the method of Li Wudian. In addition, I have enmity with Li Wudian. They are attacking me. Li Ziu must know that this time I made too much trouble, and Li Ziu, it wouldn't be nice if you go together. That'll be hard work. Hey, why are we brothers so polite? Come and have a drink. Su Tong and others drank with Xin Tian Daifeng until early the next morning, before Su Tong left Xin Tian's house smelling of alcohol. As soon as he walked out of the door, Su Tong raised his head and glanced at the soul lamp hanging on the door beam. He saw that the soul lamp was dim, and painful pleading sounds could be heard from inside. Su Tong Chang breathed out all the alcohol on his body, and then led Gao Zhou and others straight to Li Wu Palace. Going to Li Wu Palace is not only to see the fat boy Li Bo, but more importantly, to observe the old magic stick's methods through the fate of top powerhouses such as Li Ziu, and to grasp enough information about the future. So not only Li Ziu, but also several other ancestors of the witch sect have to meet him. The more information he has, the higher his chance of winning. Just wait until the group of people goes straight to Li Wu Temple. The old magic stick on the other end suddenly frowned. What's wrong? Niu couldn't help asking when she saw that the old magic stick suddenly stopped leaving. The old magic stick didn't respond to Niu. He just closed his eyes and seemed to be observing various scenes in the future. He just looked at it for a long time and couldn't figure out why, but he always felt that something was not quite right. Hurry up, I'm already hungry. If I can't find anything to eat, I'll eat you. Niu patted her belly angrily. Upon hearing this, the old magician did not dare to remain silent any longer. He knew that he was pretending to be crazy and acting stupid for fun, but Niu was really crazy. If she really got mad, it would take a lot of effort to subdue her, so he hurriedly said. Come on, travel through 3 more time nodes, and you'll almost be able to find that brat. There will be a lot of delicious food over there by then. I guarantee you'll have enough. After saying that, he continued to walk forward with Niu. As he walked, he muttered in his heart, strange, why do I feel so unhappy? He couldn't tell what it felt like, but he always felt like someone was peeping at him, but he carefully checked the time in the past and future, but he couldn't find any trace. Thinking of this, just in case, the old magic stick took advantage of Niu's inattention and gently patted Niu's back with one hand, leaving a time mark on Niu's back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Xiao. Chapter 1130. With the door sticker of Xiang Liu's house and the relationship between Su Tong and others and Li Bo, the group could enter Li Wu Palace without any hindrance. After Li Ziu learned that Su Tong and others had arrived, he came to greet Su Tong in person. In terms of strength, Li Ziu's strength is probably higher than that of Su Tong. Coupled with the unpredictable witchcraft, Su Tong may not be able to get an advantage from Li Ziu. But who told Li Bo to be Su Tong's man? Li Ziu was worried that Su Tong was coming to ask for someone, so he was extremely polite to Su Tong. This boy is a uniquely good seedling. He has the power of natural inheritance and is recognized by Mother Earth. If he can get the inheritance from Li Wu again, his future prospects are limitless. Li Ziu led Su Tong and others forward, and saw birds and beasts, strange rocks and peaks, lakes, flying waterfalls, and precious medicinal materials everywhere. The elixirs that have been used for thousands of years are more like weeds here. If there were no special restrictions to suppress these elixirs, I am afraid that these elixirs would have become as refined as Mount Tai. Su Tong could hear Li Ziu's implication that he wanted Li Bo to hide here for a while. He looked at the fluorescent thread of destiny on Li Ziu's body, and said casually, Li Wu's inheritance is profound and profound. This boy is lucky. It is best to be valued by Li Ziu. We are not here to let him. He left with us. Hearing Su Tong's flattery, Li Ziu smiled. Although outsiders such as Su Tong were extraordinary in strength, coupled with Li Bo's relationship, Li Ziu had no objection to them. But because of seeing Tian Daifeng's incident, Li Ziu inevitably felt a little alienated from Su Tong and others. Now that he knew that Su Tong was not here to beg for help, Li Ziu felt much more at ease. He looked at Su Tong and said, "Then why are you here, little friend?" Su Tong did not reply, but stretched out his finger and flicked it in front of Li Wu. A fluorescent line shone on Su Tong's fingertips. Huh! Li Ziu was shocked when she saw this thread of fate. With her strength and knowledge, she could naturally tell what this thread was. Because Tian Wu also has similar abilities, but he didn't expect Su Tong to be able to do it so easily. Su Tong flicked his fingers, and the next moment his consciousness followed this thread to directly observe Li Ziu's future destiny. As the god of time, no matter whether it is from the future or the past, as long as someone glimpses the old magic stick, he can sense it immediately. If it weren't for the law that the past cannot be changed restrained his behavior, the old magic stick would probably be invincible. But there are no absolutes in the world. For example, at this moment, Su Tong flicked the thread of fate on Li Ziu's body with his finger. In an instant, he looked straight into the future through Li Ziu's fate and saw the figure of the old magic stick. I saw 9 masters of the witch sect, at the cost of tens of millions of lives, activated the secret method of the witch clan, and actually destroyed the 9 cauldrons in unison. The copper rust on the 9 cauldrons has completely receded, emitting a dazzling and brilliant divine light. The peculiar texture on it not only represents the mountains and mountains, but also the rules of heaven and earth, and is the supreme authority of the human king Deu to suppress the gods and demons of the 9 provinces. All of a sudden, the 9 cauldrons flew up from the ground and soared straight into the sky. For a moment, the world was turned upside down and all life was in ruins. Dong dong dong. The sound of the cauldron shattering the starry sky rippled. Even the old magic stick, as the god of time, could not stop the terrifying power suppressed by the 9 divine cauldrons. Seeing the 9 cauldrons falling, the old magic stick's expression changed drastically, but he took out a golden long stick from his sleeve. The long stick was covered with the texture of time. As the old magic stick waved, the long stick skyrocketed, as if it were holding up the sky. Pillar. The traces of the stick's swing were flashing with little crystal lights. These flashes of light actually caused the surrounding time to become chaotic. In an instant, countless time and space intersected, and the past, present, and future, and the old god stick were among them, as if they were the eternal and supreme gods, transcending time. And even though the power of the 9 cauldrons penetrated the body, it could not cause any harm to it. The god of time, the ultimate power, is beyond time. Su Tong was shocked when he looked at the scene in front of him. This was tantamount to being invincible. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was cheating. No, there must be a flaw. If the old magic stick could transcend the constraints of time, then he would not be destined to see him die on the altar. Su Tong looked around and suddenly discovered that although the old magic stick was safe and sound, the stick he threw was spinning in mid-air, constantly dodging Juding's attacks. Upon seeing this, Su Tong glanced at the old magic stick and found that the old guy was making gestures with his fingers, clearly controlling the stick to dodge left and right. So that's it? Su Tong's mind changed rapidly, and he realized the key in a moment. The reason why the old magic stick could transcend time was not his own ability, but the power of the stick. However, the stick itself could not transcend time with him. Therefore, the old magic stick must control the stick to ensure that it is not hit by Juding. At this moment, Su Tong saw a huge black hole shrouding him in the distance, and the world was constantly collapsing under the huge gravity of the black hole. It's Niu. Seeing the familiar ability, Su Tong also felt troubled. An old magic stick was so difficult to deal with. The 9 masters of the Witch Palace could not control him even if they jointly controlled the Juding. In addition, a Niu who devoured the world kept crushing the world. No wonder this place eventually turns to nothingness. Without the creatures of this world as their sustenance, these witch sect leaders became rootless duckweeds and were killed one by the old magic stick. Even the bones were thrown into Niu's belly and became Niu's snack. This ending is depressing to watch, especially the way Tianwu and others fought desperately to resist and self-destruct at the end, which is tragic and tragic. However, that was the ending before. Now that I am here, this ending should be changed. At the thought of this, Su Tong's consciousness returned to his body. He looked at Li Xiu again. The inheritance of the witch cult is vast. Why should we rely on one person? We are here this time to fight against the catastrophe, protect the world, and kill the enemy together with the Wu cult. Su Tong's words were very sincere, because to deal with the old magic sticks, their strength alone is not enough. Aren't these witch sect bosses the best helpers, especially since they can use Juding? That is a power that even the old magic stick is afraid of. Coupled with the 9 immortals cauldron in his hand, and the methods he has observed from the fate of Li Xiu and others, I don't believe that he can't deal with him. Li Xiu was stunned for a second, then said nothing, and continued walking forward with Su Tong. The heavenly witch once said that our world's destiny has been exhausted, and even we don't dare to hope to change our destiny by force. Why do you think that you can? Or rather, why do you think we will agree to it? When Li Xiu said the last word, she looked sideways at Su Tong. If Su Tong had any hesitation at this moment, she would immediately kick all these people out of Li Wu Palace. However, Su Tong's answer was faster than Li Xiu thought. The moment Li Xiu looked at him, Su Tong raised the corners of his mouth and said confidently, "Because I am willing, just like you are witches." This answer made Li Xiu's eyes light up, and he looked at Su Tong and others with admiration. In fact, as early as in the Li Wu Palace, when he learned that the world was about to be doomed, Li Xiu told Su Tong calmly that they were witches. Su Tong knew how to convince Li Xiu when he answered this. These 4 seemingly simple words are all-encompassing and profound. From Dao's control of floods, Quafu chasing the sun, Hao Yi shooting the sun, Xing Tian fighting for gods, etc., whether it is Daxia or Deng Ai, the spirit of witchcraft has always been the same. In the face of injustice, they always rise to the challenge, have the courage to change the world, have the courage not to fear life and death, and do it knowingly that they cannot do it. This is witchcraft, and it is also the spiritual inheritance of Xia. Perhaps Daxia has not left any legacy in reality. No words may be written, but the spirit has never been cut off. How do you want to do it? Li Zia was very satisfied with Su Tong's answer, but it was not enough, and they had nothing to do now. The heavenly witch can only calculate the results, but cannot calculate the entire process. Now the 9 Witches Hall of Daxia is trying every means to accumulate strength. Even Deng Ai, who had been enemies for generations, temporarily shook hands and made peace. A large number of slaves were sent to Enyi every day, but this alone was not enough. Therefore, Li Zia wanted to hear Su Tong's solution. If it was feasible, then she would not mind being Su Tong's guarantor and cooperating with the other 8 palace masters. Instead of being passively beaten, it's better to take the initiative. You can't see the process, but I can, so my method is very simple: close the door and beat the dogs so that they never come back. As Su Tong spoke, he told Li Zia all his thoughts, but he did not reveal too much information. It's not that Su Tong refuses to say it, but it's that he can't say that once the old magic stick is mentioned, with the ability of this guy's god of time, there is no way he will notice it in advance. But he could give a general idea, and Li Zia was already very satisfied. In that case, why not give it a try? But when Li Zia said this, he looked at Su Tong. What benefits do you want to risk your lives to help us like this? Benefit? Gao Zhou and others were stunned for a moment. They did not expect that they came with sincerity, but they were understood to be taking the opportunity to ask for benefits. While several people were feeling annoyed, Su Tong said with a smile, "Of course it is the inheritance of the witch section. There is no free lunch in the world. We try our best and hope that the witch sect can give us some inheritance." Not to mention the inheritance of witchcraft, Su Tong would not stupidly say directly that he had a grudge against the old magic stick, let alone tell them that he had brought the old magic stick and Niu Niu into trouble. If that doesn't work, it would be more straightforward to give them to the old magician instead of stabbing them in the back. Instead of explaining too much, it is better to be more direct, and the lion opens his mouth and bites hard, so that your efforts will not be in vain, and the other party can feel at ease. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1131. In the next half-month, Su Tong wandered around the major shaman temples. He met Tianzu, the legendary dragon whose head was missing, and also met Lingzhu, who had disappeared for a long time. Su Tong saw many future scenes in the 9 Hall Masters, and had a better understanding of the old magic stick's methods. Generally speaking, the old magic stick has 3 abilities that are the most terrifying. The first ability is the Ring of Time. I spent a lot of energy to see the clues from some subtle clues. It seems to be an ability activated by the old magic stick when he entered this world. It is a halo. The halo will cover the entire world, and then gather all the time power of this world for his own use. This ability is very powerful, but it also reveals a message from the side. The old magic stick cannot directly control the time power of a time and space. This was good news, so after discussing with the Lord of the 9 Halls, he decided to attack the old magic stick as soon as he failed to gain a foothold. This is also their only chance to take the lead. From this moment on, Su Tong has begun to discover that many gray lines in the world have begun to gain a little color, indicating that what he did was not wrong. The second type is time turbulence, which can form a terrifying time storm. In the time storm, 2 completely different time forces, the past and the future, form a terrifying time dislocation. In this environment, any power, magical power, or even physical body will be decomposed in the chaotic time and space. Just imagine, in this environment, before you rush forward, your physical body will show 2 contradictory situations: rapid aging and rapid youthfulness. The dislocation of these two situations is unbearable for anyone. Even a human immortal like Gu Zibai, with extremely high martial arts skills, cannot bear it for too long. For this reason, Su Tong had to prepare for the worst. Fortunately, with the cooperation of the 9 masters of the Witch Temple, everyone could just dodge as much as possible. The third type is the ability of the old magic stick to transcend time in a short period of time. This ability is the most difficult. Once used, it is almost invincible. Even Su Tong's 9 immortals' divine refining formation couldn't do anything to him. However, by observing the fate lines of the 9 masters of the Witch Temple, I have already understood the weakness of this trick. The old magic stick can be restrained by the masters of the 9 Witch Temples, while he and his team need to solve another problem as soon as possible. Niu Niu. Even if Niu Niu's strength is not as good as the old magic stick, it is not an exaggeration to describe it as terrifying. Even Yan Zioqi suffered a big loss due to his terrifying gluttony ability. Only by concentrating all the power can he injure her. Apart from himself, only Gu Zibai and Chang Wuxu in their team can do this. More importantly, no matter what, it is necessary to prevent Niu Niu from activating the ability to swallow the world. Once this method is unfolded, she transforms into a black hole and continues to expand. Mountains, rivers, and oceans will all be swallowed by her. It was also her reason that the world finally collapsed and died, causing the 9 palace masters to lose the power of the world, and were eventually killed one by the old magic stick. So compared to the old magic stick, Su Tong and the others had to find a way to solve the big trouble of Niu Niu first. It's just that Niu Niu and Lao Shengun are together. How can we separate Lao Shengun and Niu Niu? This is a big problem. After thinking about it, Su Tong thought of someone. He glanced around and saw Chang Wuja, who had a lazy face on the side, and raised the corner of his mouth. "Hey, it's you." Chang Wuja shivered violently. He turned around and saw Su Tong staring at him with evil intentions and smirking. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Kaka kaka. At a corner of the east coast, a crack was slowly torn open, and then 2 figures, one tall, one short, one fat and one thin, were seen walking out of the crack. This is it. This kid is really good at hiding. He actually found a native world here. It's kind of interesting. The old magic stick observed the world in front of him. I found that this place turned out to be a native world. The so-called native world means that there is no intervention of gods or traces of players. It is the most primitive side of the world. In the world of the divided realm of the gods, countless scenario worlds have been created and countless players have been introduced. Such a world can be described as rare and valuable. It's a pity that such a world is about to be destroyed. As the old magic stick spoke, he moved his fingers in the void. As he moved his fingers, a white ripple rippled on his fingertips. The ripples grew larger and larger until they spread to the entire world. This is the trace of time, which can quickly spread his time power throughout the world. By then, the time of this world will be controlled by him at will. However, at this moment, Niu Niu suddenly discovered something and pulled the old magic stick. "Here." "What?" After hearing this, the old magic stick looked in the direction pointed by the girl, but was surprised to find that there was a tombstone standing in front of him. When he took a closer look at the tombstone, the old magician's face suddenly sank. On the tombstone, it was clearly written "The Tomb of the Divine Stick Kong / Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1132. To say who Niu Niu's favorite person is in the hospital, there is no doubt that it is Su Tong. Because Su Tong often brings some delicious food to Niu Niu, and he is also willing to play with Niu Niu. Although she occasionally tampered with Niu Niu's medication list, such as doubling the dosage. But this kind of thing is acceptable and kind to Niu Niu. On the other hand, the person Niu Niu hates the most must be Chang Wuja. Even though this guy is in the team now and is extremely obedient, that's because Su Tong is pressing down on him, and there are people like Gu Zibai, Gao Zhou and others watching behind him. This guy is a bad beast to the core. Killing people is nothing. In Chang's unrestrained worldview, blood and death are the source of happiness. This guy has been a bad guy since he was a child, and he bullies Niu as much as he wants. Otherwise, Su Tong would not perform a minor operation on him. Now that Chang Wuhan suddenly appeared to provoke him, Niu naturally wanted to cut this guy into pieces as soon as possible. A pungent stench emitted from the split mouth in the abdomen, and at the same time, a terrifying gravitational force surged out of the abdominal cavity. Under the influence of gravity, it was difficult for Chang Wuhan to tear open the void and escape. Chang Wuhan even found that all his props were stuck in silence at this moment. This is absolutely fatal to Chang Wujia, who relies on prop cards as his main strength. If it were the past, Chang Wuhan would undoubtedly die. But now that he has lost the blessing of the prop card, Chang Wujia's face turned cold. He took out the black water dragon fang. Although under the influence of Niu's special power, the black water dragon fang's special skills cannot be activated, but this does not affect these two weapons. The lethality of the artifact dagger is enhanced to add 12. Devil transformation. At the same time, the inherited skills from the Nishan clan were stimulated. The muscles in Chang Wuji's arm suddenly exploded. The dagger in his hand made a harsh tearing sound. It would pierce Niu's hands in an instant. At the same time, he jumped up with his legs in the air and kicked him. On Niu's face, she kicked hard with the help of inertia and jumped out more than 10 meters away. After several consecutive rolls, Chang Wuhan was able to get rid of the force field around Niu that could prevent all items from getting stuck. He didn't even dare to take a breath, tore open the void and escaped 1,000 meters away again. Looking at the healed incision on her hand, Niu was not angry, but instead showed a joyful smile on her round face. It seemed that the more Chang Wujia resisted, the more excited she became. A strange smile appeared on his chubby face, his eyes locked on Chang Wuhan's figure from a distance, his legs jumped, and he also tore through the void and chased Chang Wuhan. After all, it is a product of failure. Seeing that Niu had been abducted by Chang Wuhan, the old magician was helpless, because Niu's mental state was not normal. Except that she would listen to what the youngest said, he had no way to command her. Speaking of which, there is nothing that can be done about this. After all, it is the result of creation. It is a normal result to suddenly bear such a powerful force and become a madman. In fact, the original best partner should be Chang Wuji. But who would have thought that Chang Wuhan's body was disabled and he was no longer suitable to be a test subject? Finally, he chose Niu after thinking for a long time. In this regard, the old magician has to say that even the god of time cannot achieve omniscience and omnipotence. But now the old magician has no time to lament these trivial matters. The 9 cauldrons in front of him have all smashed down on his head. It has to be said that these 9 masters of the witch temple are ruthless people, and they have all spent their lives to meet this world-destroying enemy. Just the great witch at the witch ancestor level sacrificed 13 people. As for the slaves who were sacrificed, there were countless people. The executioners responsible for the executions killed many people day and night, and several groups of them died of exhaustion. Even King Kongjia of Xia himself could not escape the disaster. Of course, he was not killed as a sacrifice, but bled. As a direct descendant of Deu, Kongjia has the purest blood among the royal family, and his blood is the most precious thing. The witch god's temple usually enshrines him as the great king who manages the billions of people in Daxia, but at critical moments, he must be brought up and bloodshed. This time, the amount of bloodletting alone was enough. It is said that Kongjia was given more than 10 kinds of magic medicine to survive, but the sequelae may make him unable to escape. But who cares, if the old magic stick cannot be defeated, the world will become extinct and turn into nothingness, and everything will be empty. With the blessing of so many sacrifices, the power of the 9 provinces' divine cauldron activated was extraordinary. The 9 great cauldrons fell at the same time, suppressing eternity and destroying time and space. This time, the old magic stick did not dare to be careless. He displayed his magical power, and a dazzling force of time and space flew out from between his palms. At the same time, he formed seals with his hands and moved continuously in the air. Several channels contained powerful power to destroy the world. A chaotic storm of time and space. However, none of this could stop the 9 cauldrons. The 9 great cauldrons were blazing with golden light, extremely dazzling, and indestructible. They were directly suppressed. No matter the past, present, or future, they were completely crushed by the divine cauldron. Yeah. What a pity for this treasure. The old magic stick screamed strangely when he saw this, but it was a pity that although these 9 divine cauldrons were acquired, they still had innate power. But this kind of treasure is an extraordinary treasure and can be used for personal use. Otherwise, he would have snatched the divine cauldron for his own use long ago. The old magic stick changed his tone, but with this cauldron, it would be too ridiculous to suppress me. While he was talking, he took out a long stick from his sleeve. Once the long stick appeared, it stirred up time and space. As the old magic stick was swung, the stars in the world were turned upside down, and the sun and moon alternated, as if in an instant. Several decades of spring and autumn have passed by quickly with the swing of this long stick. Not good. When the 9 masters of the witch palace saw this, their expressions changed drastically. They did not expect that the old magic stick was so terrifying. The long stick stirred time, and a short breath seemed like several years had passed. They, the palace masters, are easy to talk to and protect themselves with 9 cauldrons, but they are not afraid of wasting time. But the great witches lying in wait didn't even realize what was happening, and they were already aging rapidly. If he is allowed to continue swinging, all the great witches will die of old age before long. Suppress him. Seeing this, the 9 people controlled the divine cauldron in unison to suppress the old magic stick. Buzz. Suddenly the 9 cauldrons emitted brilliant light, and the power of the mountains, rivers, sun, and moon came like a tide, crushing the time and space around the old god stick into a vast chaos. If you want to suppress me, you are still a little immature, get up. The old magic stick spoke, and saw the long stick in front of him being thrown up by the wind, growing bigger and bigger as it faced the wind. Thousands of golden lights waved out from the stick, wrapping the old magic stick's figure, making him transcend time. Ha ha ha, you are just a group of dregs abandoned by the times. In the years to come, you can only be reduced to a supporting role, and you are worthy of being my enemy. When you run out of magical power, prepare to face the end. The old magic stick grinned ferociously. I saw the Juding falling, with the power to destroy everything, but it could only penetrate the old magic stick's body, but it was unable to cause any substantial harm to him. It seems that everything is going in the direction originally planned by fate. However, at this moment, the old magic stick suddenly felt a chill in his heart. This chill came from someone who didn't know where it came from, making his heart beat faster. Before he could think about what happened, Su Tong-gren had already rushed over. This kid. When the old magic stick noticed Su Tong's figure, it was already too late. Su Tong had been hiding around from the beginning, with no intention of helping. Until this moment, this guy seemed like an arrow that had escaped from the string. The ink dye spreads black and white light and shadow in his hands. With the blessing of an inch of time, the place he walked seemed to be an ink world. The chaotic time storm around was split open by an inch of time. The graceful dancing steps make people feel amazing. But in the eyes of the old magic stick, it made him feel a huge crisis, because this kid was running towards his own Kinkin time stick. Impossible, How did he discover my secret? The old magic stick screamed in his heart, feeling that everything was a coincidence. He transcended the years because of the secret of the time stick, which only a handful of people knew. What's more, this is the first time he has used this method since he recovered. How could Su Tong see the opportunity in advance? It can be imagined that when I entered this world, I saw the tombstone Su Tong set for me at first sight, and then I was immediately besieged by the natives here. All this cannot be explained by a simple coincidence. At the thought of this, the old magic stick's murderous intent exploded in his heart. This kid has grown up too fast and has far exceeded his expectations. When even his fingers guided him, the time stick that controlled the universe rolled up a storm of time, and smashed towards Su Tong with a huge force. If you don't take the road to heaven, there will be no way for hell to break in. Even if the youngest comes to protect you today, you will not escape death. As the old magic stick spoke, he pointed his finger, and then with a huge rumbling sound, the long stick magnified infinitely in the void and slammed down towards Su Tong. But at this moment, Su Tong's body suddenly bloomed with brilliance. Name of Sage. Title Skill, Appearance. After activating this title, you will be immune to all damage and exempt from all negative conditions. Seeing this, the old magic stick couldn't help but sneer, "It's this move again. Just right, I'll see if you can escape later." Seeing Su Tong using such a shameless life-saving trick again, the old magician was very happy, because he had not thought about how to crack Su Tong's invincible hearthstone. Now that Su Tong is using this method at this moment, it means that he will not be able to use the invincible hearthstone again in a short time. Even if he is immune to his own blow, can he survive the next blow? Thinking of this old magic stick, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but smile, but then Su Tong suddenly raised his hand, and a dazzling bright light bloomed from the palm of his hand, covering the Kinkan time stick in front of him. A scene that shocked the old magic stick appeared. Under the strong light, the connection between himself and the Kinkan Xiaoniu stick was forcibly severed. The Kinkan time stick, which was originally like the pillar of optimization, quickly turned into the size of a silver needle. Su Tong grabbed it in the palm of his hand. He turned around, smiled at the old god stick with red mouth and white teeth, clasped his fists with both hands, and shot towards the old god stick. "Bye, thank you uncle for the New Year's money. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1133. Hearing Su Tong's call uncle, the old magician was about to spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot. But he opened his mouth wide, and before he could say a word, he suddenly felt the veins on his forehead jumping, as if a huge force hit his head hard. Roar. There was a low, earth-shaking roar, and the old magic stick looked sideways, and in a daze he saw a one-eyed dragon looking towards him. This divine dragon has no horns and is 10,000 feet long. It has a head but not a tail. It has a single eye on its forehead. When it is open, it is like a big sun, illuminating thousands of worlds. When it is closed, the sky and the earth faint, and the stars and the moon are also without light. Candle Dragon. The corner of the old magician's mouth twitched, feeling incredible. This ancient creature, born in chaos like him, has long since disappeared and disappeared. The only remaining descendant is also of impure blood, and is said to be hiding on the top of Kunlun. How would it appear here? Just when the old magic stick was feeling uneasy, Zalong's eyes widened open, and suddenly a bright light came on, giving him a splitting headache and making him unable to move. However, it was at this moment that the old magician discovered that the candle dragon was not real, but just a remnant of heaven and earth that turned into luck and rested on Su Tong. Yes, if it was really the true form of Zalong, I would probably have already had my body shattered and my spirit shattered at this moment. However, despite this, the old magic stick also suffered a big loss. His head was so painful that it was about to split, and his body and limbs were even unable to move. As the saying goes, other people's nephews ask for money for New Year greetings, but Su Tong's nephew asks for his life for New Year greetings. But such a result is inevitable. Since Su Tong wants to attack this good uncle, he has absolutely no reason to hold back. The old magic stick's methods are too terrible, and the chance to ambush him is almost rare. Su Tong not only has to carefully calculate step by step, but also it's about the lion fighting the rabbit and bursting out with all his strength. First borrow the name of the sage to activate the invincible golden body, not only to be immune to the damage of the Kinkan time stick, but also to be immune to the terrifying power of the inanimate divine light. The incompetent divine light is definitely a trick that can kill 1,000 enemies and cause 800 losses. Su Tong couldn't control this thing either. After all, this thing is too cruel. When it is activated, wherever the divine light shines, no matter how powerful your magical power is, it will be temporarily transformed into a magical power. Even the caster himself will be temporarily stripped of his magical powers. In such a complicated environment, the aftermath of Juding's blow may kill him. It was with the help of Wookiee divine light that he was able to cut off the connection between the Kinkan time stick and the old god stick in a short moment and take them away by force. Some people may wonder, since the incompetent divine light is so terrifying, why not attack the old magic stick directly? Su Tong has certainly thought about this, but the idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. Not to mention that the old magic stick is invincible after escaping outside time and space, and his own incompetent divine light may not be able to do anything to him. Secondly, even if he succeeds, Su Tong cannot guarantee whether the next 9 masters of the Witch Palace will take the opportunity to smash himself into a pulp. Besides, there are too many variables in doing this. If you are not careful, you will lose everything. Su Tong does not dare to take such a risk. So in comparison, Su Tong prefers to choose the steady and step-by-step approach. And when he looked back on this bow, he saw that he was bowing to Shan Kao for the 7 unique skills. Although in the eyes of the old magic stick, this Bashenko is not even considered to have supernatural powers the size of sesame seeds. The difference is like the difference between a pistol and a toy. But the uniqueness of this technique lies in luck. The stronger the luck of the person, the more terrifying the power of this technique. The only power that limits the effect of this technique is luck. After all, even a god can hardly achieve such an effect no matter how unlucky his luck is. However, Su Tong was different. After returning from Mount Tai, the 7-star fate had been filled up. This time, he directly used the Book of Destiny to sacrifice the 7-star destiny, in exchange for the Destiny Candle Dragon. Zilong's destiny is extremely powerful. Opening your eyes and observing the 3,000 worlds can bring your luck to an unprecedented peak. If you close your eyes, your luck will be hidden among all living beings. No one can attack Su Tong's luck. It can be said to be an integration of offense and defense. Just in case, Su Tong shot a magic arrow Xiao Tian before the fight to suppress the old magic stick's luck. So we can't blame the old magician for underestimating the enemy. It can only be said that from the time he stepped into this world, let alone New Year greetings, Su Tong had already thought clearly about how to use a few pairs of chopsticks when eating. The old magician was dizzy and his head was buzzing after being worshipped, but he didn't have time to catch his breath. The 9 divine cauldrons were already overwhelmingly smashing down on the old divine stick. Now that there is no Kinkan time stick, how can the old magic stick withstand the power of Juding? The cauldron trembled in the void, smashing the starry sky and the earth, suppressing the time universe. With a violent blow, even the old magic stick was smashed and flew sideways like a kite with its string broken. Then another cauldron fell, and this time the old magic stick opened his mouth and vomited out golden divine blood, and his whole body's muscles and bones were shattered. Boom 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 boom. Seeing the chaos in front of him, the old magic stick was pinned to the ground by Juding and smashed hard. Su Tong even had the flag ready, not to mention how happy he was in his heart. In the chaos, a mutilated palm stretched out. Only 3 of the 5 fingers on the palm were left, and one was broken. Golden divine blood spilled down along the wound, desperately trying to tear the chaos apart and break free. But how could everyone let him get his wish? The 9 masters of the witch temple were also trying their best to destroy the Juding in order to suppress this man. Chaos tore apart, and half of the old god stick's head poked out of the chaos. Only half of his head was left, and the bones on his cheeks were exposed. The only remaining eye stared at everyone is going to die. As he finished speaking, he could see time flowing rapidly backwards around him, quickly repairing the old magic stick's body. Seeing how difficult this old magician was, Su Tong felt overwhelmed. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to kill him. Just when Su Tong was about to rush forward and give his good uncle a few more blessings, he saw a ray of red light appear on the forehead of the old magic stick. This red light is like a strange talisman, which cannot be removed no matter how hard the old magic stick tries to wipe it. This is the soul-locking curse of the witch section. It was originally pressed under the tombstone and was triggered after being kicked by the old magic stick. At the same time, thousands of miles away, only the sound of killing could be heard. Kill, kill, kill. Xin Tian Deifeng stood on the altar, looking like a madman, and saw a large number of slaves being pushed to the guillotine under the altar. The executioner raised his knife and dropped it, and blood poured out from the broken throat like a faucet, spilling into the full blood tank below. When the blood tank in front of him was filled with blood, Xin Tian Deifeng took out a jade knife and stabbed his chest tightly. In an instant, the entire earth trembled, and a huge bloody light surged from the ground, turning 100 miles around into a desert. And the blood light then penetrated the void, like a huge red comet, dragging the curses and wails of thousands of creatures, and smashed down hard. Ha ha ha, try this. In the bloody light, you can still vaguely hear the long roar of Xin Tian Deifeng. This madman used himself as a guide and thousands of creatures as a curse to launch the most vicious super large curse of the witchcraft. Blood god descends. The old magic stick's face suddenly changed as he watched the bloody light that spread across the 10-mile starry sky fall towards him. One hand struggled, launching a time storm, trying to stop the blood curse from falling. But at this moment, I heard Su Tong calling from a distance, "Uncle." The old magic stick looked sideways and saw Su Tong bowing deeply to him with a ferocious smile on his face. "Have a good trip." With this bow, Zilong behind Su Tong opened his eyes, and the scorching bright light shone down again. This time, the old magic stick became alert and immediately clung to his thoughts to defend himself. But his luck couldn't compete with Su Tong's at this moment, and he felt dizzy in an instant. After shaking his head to wake up, Su Tong bowed down for the second time. He is determined to send his good uncle away today. "You bastard." The old magician was so angry that he wished he could tear this little bastard Su Tong into pieces right now. But the 9 cauldrons suppressed him, turning the surroundings into chaos, making it difficult for him to break free for a while. He could only watch helplessly as the blood in front of him hit him hard. At the same time, the earth shook. I saw a figure running away in the forest. While running, he shouted in the team channel, "Are you guys ready? I can't hold it anymore. Lao Gao, does your medicine work or not? How long will it take for it to take effect?" As he said that, Chang Wazi slipped. If he hadn't been so skilled, he would have fallen to his feet. No wonder he was in such a mess, with only his shoulders, lower abdomen, and bloody flesh visible. It only took a while and he was already covered in scars. But behind him was Niu Niu's unhurried figure. She could obviously catch up directly, but Niu Niu seemed to have a lot of patience, and chased after him unhurriedly. From time to time, he suddenly accelerated and appeared directly next to Chang Wuju. Then with a slap, a large piece of flesh and blood was torn off from Chang Wogu's body. The pain was so painful that Chang Wogu grinned and screamed repeatedly. He ran and apologized to Niu Niu. This made Niu Niu very happy. The more painful it is, the happier Niu Niu is. I can't help it anymore. Seeing Chang Wuhan covered in blood, she was so excited that her whole body was trembling. Her figure suddenly accelerated and stood in front of Chang Wuhan. The abdomen split open, revealing a bloody mouth. That's all. Niu Niu's red eyes reflected Chang Wuhan's lowered head, and her big fat hands stretched out and grabbed his neck. However, just when her hand was about to touch Chang Wuhan's eyes dimmed coldly, and Gao Zhou's voice came to his ears at the same time, "That's enough, let's do it." The moment the words rang out, Chang Wuhan's originally embarrassed face suddenly turned cold. He seemed to have evaded Niu Niu's palm by mistake, and suddenly crossed his arms. The black water dragon tooth, which did not shine at all under the sun, instantly cut an X-shaped blood mark on Niu Niu's chest. Stupid girl, the game is over. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1134. Niu Niu was startled, but she saw that Chang Wu's originally stupid body suddenly became more flexible than she imagined. Niu Niu's palm grabbed his head at a speed that exceeded the limit of human reaction. But Chang Wuhan just turned sideways to avoid Niu Niu's palm. At the same time, his figure was like a ghost, forming an afterimage in front of Niu Niu. Puff 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 puff. In an instant, the black water dragon fang rolled up a terrifying storm of sharp blades in Chang Wuhan's hands and slashed crazily on Niu Niu's body. Although these cuts did not cause any substantial harm to Niu Niu, the bursts of stinging pain made Niu Niu's face distorted in pain. Chang Wuhan's speed was so fast that Niu Niu's eyes couldn't keep up. Although the prop card fell into silence, the passive effect was not cancelled. In addition, Chang Wuhan himself had the body of an earthly immortal, and the special movement blessing of the Nishan clan, the speed that exploded in a short period of time, would give even Gu Zibai a headache. Seeing the afterimages in front of her and being unable to catch Chang Wuju, Niu Niu went completely crazy. A piercing scream came from his mouth, and his abdominal cavity suddenly split open, about to turn into a black hole and swallow everything around him. However, at this moment, the violent attack in front of her suddenly stopped. Niu Niu took a closer look and found that Chang Wuhan had jumped 1,000 meters away. His body is as light as a cat. With a little tip of his toes, he can jump 1,000 meters away again. When he was done, he didn't forget to turn around and raise his middle finger towards Niu Niu. This made Niu Niu so angry that she screamed and chased after Chang Wuhan frantically. Puff. But no one knew that the moment Chang Wuju turned his head with a proud face, a mouthful of black blood spat out from his mouth. He quickly took out the elixir Gao Zhou had given him in advance from the props book and drank it, but even so, his lips became darker and darker, and strange corpse spots appeared on his face. The two chased and escaped, and the mountains and rivers they passed were shattered. Niu Niu's body began to expand continuously. Everything she passed was like a super bulldozer. No matter what mountains, rivers you passed, the moment Niu Niu rushed over, they all turned to the ground. On the other hand, Chang Wenzhen's physical condition was getting worse and worse. Even though he continued to take medicine, the corpse spots on his body were getting worse and worse. It had even begun to invade his internal organs. Suddenly, a strong throbbing pain hit him, causing Chang Wuhan's steps to sink suddenly. The next moment, the sunlight behind him was covered by a huge shadow. A palm as big as a mountain smashed down directly from Chang Wuhan's head like a swatting fly. Boom! 10 miles of mountains and rivers trembled, and countless birds and beasts fled. The mountain forest where Chang Wuhan was directly dented. Hey! Seeing the figure disappearing under her palm, Niu Niu showed a ferocious smile on her huge face. However, when she opened her palms, The smile suddenly solidified on her cheeks. "Hey, fat girl, this way." At this time, a shout came from the distance. Fat girl raised her head and saw a group of people standing on the mound in the distance. The soil around Li Bo cracked, and Chang Wazi emerged from the soil wrapped in dense vines. "It's so dangerous. If there hadn't been a forest over there, I wouldn't have known how to save you." Li Bo pulled Chang Wuju out, looking frightened. Gao Zhou on the side said with a bad smile, "You also have a chance of overturning. If we hadn't noticed something was wrong in advance, Qian Ke would have died heroically." Chang Wugu spat out a ball of black blood. There was no trace of blood on his face. He glared at Gao Zhou fiercely, "You thief, you must have done this on purpose." "No, no, no, this is really an accident." With a smirk on his face, Gao Zhou stretched out his finger and made a cut on Chang Wahan's arm. Then he poked his finger in, and strands of black liquid flowed out of Chang Wahan's wound. After these black liquids were absorbed by Gao Zhou, Chang Wuju's complexion improved a lot after taking a few Ad9 pills. His injuries also eased. At this moment, when Niu saw the figures of Gao Zhou, Chang Wahan, and Li Bo in the distance, a bloodthirsty anger began to show on her chubby face. Dong 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 dong. The huge body began to rush towards the three people. That kind of overwhelming and terrifying aura, even though the three of them were already confident, their scalps were numb for a while. Boom. The moment Niu rushed into the plane in front of her, a bright light suddenly fell from the sky that was originally full of clouds, tearing apart the thick clouds. What followed was a violent storm of bombings exploding on Pang Pang's body. Above the clouds, Ame directed Ge Zhou and others to throw a large number of energy crystals into the vitality furnace. These energy crystals are the energy crystals that overflowed from the great Sun Ruyi furnace when Su Tong broke through to the heavenly immortal. Because the energy was too thick, it quickly solidified into crystal form the moment it overflowed. It can be seen how rich energy is contained in these crystals. At this moment, these crystals are continuously thrown into the vitality furnace and transformed into the purest vitality energy. As the densely packed gun muzzles on the battleship emit dazzling bright light, they go crazy. Aim at Niu's body for bombardment. Boom 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 boom. The mountains and rivers were turbulent for a moment, and the plane in front of them was instantly smashed into a terrifying sea of fire. Terrifying elemental forces were raging on this plane. Anyone who rushed in might be torn into pieces by these elemental forces. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred, and a terrible storm suddenly rolled up among those manic elements. As the storm rolls, the huge gravity is quickly swallowing up these elements. In the blink of an eye, all the elemental storms that filled the plane were swallowed up. Niu's abdominal cavity was completely torn apart, and the huge black hole began to be slowly exposed. Eating the world is activated. This is the most terrifying place for Niu. Once she activates the devouring heaven and earth, as time goes by, the entire world will be swallowed up by her. Su Tong initially asked Chang Wugu to seduce Niu in order to delay her plan to eat the world. But now, with the opening of devouring heaven and earth, the black hole gradually expanded in Niu's abdominal cavity, and the terrifying gravity began to tear the surrounding earth apart. But what is unexpected is that, facing Niu who started to eat the world, Gao Zhou and the other two people, instead of leaving immediately, they all rushed towards Niu. In the eyes of others, this is tantamount to seeking death, but at the moment Gao Zhou formed a seal with his hands. Niu's fat body actually began to tremble violently, and a heartbreaking pain hit her chest, causing Niu to roar in pain. Corpse poison. Niu chased Chang Wahan all the way, tearing his flesh and blood from time to time and eating him, but she didn't know that Chang Wahan had been poisoned with corpse poison. This corpse poison is completely different from ordinary toxins. It is a wisp of poison brewed by Gao Zhou when he was promoted to corpse immortal. Ordinary toxins have no effect on Niu. Her body has long been immune to all poisons in the world. But Gao Zhou's corpse poison is different. Like Gao Zhou's corpse immortal, it jumps out of the three realms and is not within the scope of the five elements. Even Niu Niu was not immune. At this moment, under Gao Zhou's control, the corpse poison gathered into wisps of poisonous snakes and crazily wormed its way towards Niu Niu's heart. While Niu Niu felt a pain in her heart and had no time to be distracted, the mound behind Niu Niu suddenly exploded, and a figure appeared behind Niu Niu, with a dazzling golden light blooming all over her body. The martial arts is so extreme that it shatters the starry sky. It turned out that Gu Zibai had been hiding in the mound behind Niu Niu. Niu Niu activated the black hole, but before the black hole evolved to engulf the world, there was a vacuum behind her. Although all the props and skills will become silent when he gets close to Niu Niu, there is no threat to Gu Zibai at all. I saw Gu Zibai swinging his fist like a ferocious dragon coming out of the gate, glaring at him, and a real dragon-like roar erupted from his fist. When Niu Niu sensed the danger and wanted to turn around, Li Bo had transformed into the high priest of the elements, slapping the ground with his hands, and saw endless apricot yellow earth evil rising up and hitting Niu Niu's body hard. And Gao Zhou also immediately activated the corpse poison to the extreme. Boom! In an instant, Gu Zibai's fist hit Niu Niu's back, and everyone could hear the sound of Niu Niu's skin and flesh being penetrated and her bones breaking. Following Yan Zioqi's reminder, Gu Zibai focused all his attack power on one point and directly penetrated Niu Niu's indestructible body. Under the severe sting, Niu Niu let out a miserable scream, and was forced to stop swallowing the world, but Gu Zibai's fist had already been smashed down like a cannonball. Every punch made Niu Niu's expression distorted and she was in extreme pain. Silly girl! Don't be so greedy in the next life. Seeing that Niu Niu had been continuously injured, Chang Wuji's eyes showed a ferocious evil light, and he saw his figure tearing apart an afterimage in the void, holding the black water dragon teeth tightly in his hands, and in an instant, he exploded with a killing force that could penetrate time and space. Force. When Niu Niu was about to die, a dazzling light burst out from Niu Niu's shoulder, and a crystal fragment of time appeared on her shoulder. And in this fragment of time, a figure is quickly reviving. The strong light radiated in this void, actually stopping all the time around it. A skinny palm slowly poked out from Niu Niu's shoulder at this moment. No, run! Starlight bloomed all over Gu Zibai's body, shattering the frozen time around him. He grabbed Gao Zhou and Li Bo who were frozen in place and flew into the distance. The black water dragon fang in Gu Zibai's hand immediately cut open the time in front of him, and then jumped back, tearing open the void and jumping into it. However, at this moment, the skinny palm reached out and grasped the crack in the void. With a grab, Chang Wuxiu, who had escaped into the void, was lifted out. When Chang Wuhen turned around, he realized that the old magic stick's body had completely emerged from the time fragments on Niu Niu's shoulders. The thin face was staring at him with a smile but not a smile. Child, have you missed me? Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Ganxiao. Chapter 1135. Chang Wuhen looked at the face of the old magician in front of him. His face was red from holding back, but he couldn't move. It was completely unexpected that this old guy would suddenly appear from Niu Niu's body. The old magician looked sideways at Niu Niu, and when he discovered that Niu Niu had been seriously injured, his slender eyebrows immediately knitted together. Then he glanced sideways at Gu Zibai and the others. Just one look made all the hairs on Gu Zibai's body stand up, as if he was on the verge of doom. Within a moment, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Each of them has lifted Juding and been tempered by Juding. In addition, Su Tong gave them the inheritance of Nishan. Each of them is covered with prop cards that have been strengthened to add 12. Throw them out alone, and they can all be on their own. Looking at all players, they are qualified to challenge the top. But now, in front of the old magic stick, the gap is so huge that it is suffocating them. Very good. Very good. The old magic stick's voice was like a cold pool. Although it was a compliment, it made Guzibai and the others feel like they were facing a formidable enemy. Anyone could hear that the anger in this old guy's heart was on the verge of exploding. The old magic stick was more than just angry, he was simply furious. He has never suffered such a big loss in his life. The little beast who could kill him with a single hair of his own now has grown to a level that even him is afraid of. There are so many amazing masters around him helping him. Even these people joined forces and severely injured Niu Niu. This was really unexpected and exceeded the future he had seen. This time, the old magic stick once again realized the helplessness of being the god of time. Even though he had already observed the future, in the face of the ever-changing future, he still could not guarantee whether the future of the next second would still be the future he had seen. Hey! At this time, Su Tong's voice came from above his head. After Gao Zhou asked for help in the team channel, Su Tong realized that something was wrong. He didn't expect that the old magic stick would leave a way out for him. You must know that this old thief is arrogant and arrogant. With his temper, he should not be so cautious when dealing with thieves like them. Su Tong felt that his plan was perfect and he was taking advantage of the old magician's blind spot. This guy would definitely not notice it, but now he didn't know what the problem was. There is certainly nothing wrong with Su Tong's plan, but there are some things that are so mysterious that the truth cannot be explained clearly. Although the old magic stick did not notice anything wrong. But he has survived for so many years, has he lived in vain? Even the slightest fluctuation in his heart may arouse the old thief's vigilance. Even he didn't realize anything was wrong. At this moment, Su Tong quickly returned to the Sun battleship through the transmission beacon. He saw the figure of the old magic stick at a glance. Chang Wuhen was held in his hand, as if he was holding a big goose, motionless. Seeing that the old guy had no wounds caused by jutting, Su Tong secretly cursed the old thief for being really difficult to deal with. He took a deep breath, but with a bright smile on his face, he jumped off the Sun battleship. "Uncle, why did you come here? Go back quickly. Several great witches are holding a big cauldron to give you something. You are making a toast." These words were said kindly, and coupled with Su Tong's bright and sunny smile at this moment, those who didn't know it thought he was an uncle and nephew, and the family was as close as honey. But the old magic stick was so angry that he was about to bite his gums into pieces. How could he not hear it? Su Tong's words had a double meaning, reminding himself to get out of here quickly, otherwise the 9 witch ancestors would arrive later and he would not be able to walk around without food. Okay, you are really my good nephew, worthy of being the prisoner's son. Bring me the Kinkan time stick, and I will spare you this time. The old magic stick opened his palm and asked Su Tong for the stick of time and space. That was his most precious treasure, his authority to control the power of time. He had to get it back no matter what, and it must not fall into the hands of this little beast. What? Uncle, why do you want to take back the red envelope you gave me? Su Tong continued to make a fuss and shook his head like a rattle. This thing is very beautiful. I was worried that I would lose it, so I asked the 9 witch masters to help me suppress it. I didn't bring it with me. How about, next time? Su Tong's face was full of embarrassment, and he looked really decent. But anyone who is familiar with Su Tong knows that he has never spit out the meat he bit off. I spent so much effort, risked being beaten to death with a stick, and took back the treasure that I snatched from the hands of the old magic stick. It would be better for him to lie down and let the old magic stick cut him into pieces. Snort. Of course, the old magic stick knew Su Tong's little thoughts, and snorted coldly. Then you are not afraid that I will crush him to death now? Su Tong took out a small horse from the props book, sat down, took out the melon seeds, put them to his mouth and started eating. Up to you. Does Su Tong not care about Chang Wuju? Of course I care. But the more he cared, the less likely he was to be threatened by the old stick. He shook Chang Wuhen's neck and asked himself to hand over the treasure. If he patted Chang Wuhen's butt, would he risk his life? Go up. Seeing that Su Tong refused to do this, the old magician was also furious and wanted to scold his mother. But at this moment, the old magic stick noticed the 9 shaman masters coming towards us from a distance, and his face turned bitter for a moment. In fact, he was not in good condition. In addition, he lost the Kinkan time stick, and now faced with 9 witch masters holding Juding, the old magic stick felt unsure. The most important thing is that he can't figure out whether Su Tong's attitude is delaying the attack or deliberately pretending to be indifferent. Okay, little beast, you win this time, but if you want this kid to survive, come to the battlefield of the gods. After saying that, the old magic stick no longer hesitated, grabbed Niu Niu, who was already seriously injured on the ground, tore open the barrier and left quickly. Only when the old magic stick left did Su Tong show his sad face. Boss, are you going to let Lao Chang be taken away like this? Gao Zhou cursed the old magic stick for being cunning, and at the same time looked at Su Tong in confusion. Don't worry, as long as I hold his big treasure in my hand, Chang won't be in danger. Besides, I just passed the team warehouse and gave him Touch of Time, Sands of Time and Traveler's Seal for him. The rest depends on Chang's own luck. Chang Wuju falling into the hands of the old magic stick is something that no one wants to see, but there is nothing that can be done about it. If he hadn't been holding the Kinkan time stick in his hand, Chang Wuhen would have had his neck broken in the next second. As for saving people, it is tantamount to risking death. Don't think that they almost killed the old magician this time, but that was not their fault, but the huge witch sect. In order to deal with this world-destroying enemy, the witch cult almost emptied their wealth. Just for activating Juding, the witch sect's vitality has been severely damaged. In other words, they are using the entire world's resources to fight against the old magic stick. But Su Tong just took advantage of the old magic stick's blind spot and relied on a sneak attack to catch the old magic stick off guard. Otherwise, if they all go together, they may not be able to shake a single hair of the old magic stick. They don't even need him to sacrifice a divine weapon like the Kinkan time stick. They will probably be beaten to the ground by the old magic stick. This is also the reason why Su Tong cannot and does not dare to rashly take out the Kinkan time stick in exchange for Chang Wuju. I gave all 3 time prop cards to Chang Wugu, hoping that he could make good use of these 3 time prop cards and create opportunities to escape. At this time, the 9 witch masters had already arrived. After learning that the old magic stick had left, the faces of these 9 witch masters showed the joy of surviving the disaster. The eyes looking at Su Tong and others also became eager. This old guy is too terrifying, even the power of the 9 cauldrons cannot suppress him. If Su Tong hadn't kept giving him New Year greetings with mountain buckles, this guy would have been able to break free from Juding's suppression on his own even if he didn't have any backup plans. Not to mention, without Su Tong's act of snatching food from the tiger's mouth, they would not have been able to escape death with just the Kinkan Year's stick. Therefore, Su Tong and others are a great kindness to the witchcraft religion and even the world. Everyone, this is not the place to talk. Go back first. Let's rest for a few days. We will talk about the rest later. Tianzu opened his mouth and motioned for everyone to go back and rest for the time being. Although they had many things to say and wanted to thank Su Tong, controlling Juding was also a huge test for them. After all, this thing is a sacred weapon that governs the country. They can only destroy it with the blood of King Xia, and now they can hardly hold it anymore. Su Tong nodded, then took Gao Zhou and others back to the Sun battleship, and returned to Enyi with a group of great witches for repairs. On the Sun battleship, Su Tong took out the Kinkan time stick. This thing was wrapped tightly with 3 layers inside and 3 outside of the Shillong talisman. At first glance, this gadget looked like a needle. But Su Tong had seen the power of this thing before. He tried throwing the thing into the prop. As a result, the prop book could not recognize the item and refused to accept it. This is not a prop card. It is a divine object made by the old guy with the power of time. The prop card is a product created by the gods. The two are completely different. This object can be called an innate treasure, so naturally it cannot be contained. Ame stepped forward and explained to Su Tong. To put it bluntly, this thing is so advanced that even the prop book cannot recognize it, so one can imagine its importance. And this thing should have already recognized its owner. I'm afraid it might be difficult for you to use it. Hearing Ame's words, Su Tong immediately lost his face. I understand the power of time. If I have the blessing of this treasure, my strength will definitely increase greatly. But if I can't use this thing, won't it just fall on my hand? Is there no other way? Su Tong looked at Ame unwillingly. As one of the managers of the script library, Ame knew too many secrets and heard many things that ordinary people couldn't access. There was nothing she could do about this situation. A stupid way is to throw this thing in your Ruyi furnace to refine it, and wear off the old guy's mark bit by bit. Su Tong heard that this method was feasible, and asked casually, how long will it take? It can range from decades to hundreds of years. Have to. Upon hearing this, Su Tong rolled his eyes. Good guy, if he had hundreds of years of hard work, he could press the old magic stick on the ground and rub it without this big treasure. Seeing that this method was unreliable, Su Tong could only ask without giving up, is there any other faster way? Ame was also in a dilemma now. She thought for a moment. It is said that there is divine water in the East G land that can wash away all marks. However, this is just a rumor. The East G land is also a place that no one has ever seen. It is said that there is, it seems to be the private residence of Emperor Dongyu, but I have only heard rumors and no one has ever seen it. Emperor Dongyu. When Su Tong heard this, he immediately became energetic. Isn't he the Prince of Fu? However, I have been to Yushan myself, and I have even entered Fu Jun's palace, but I have never seen any divine water. When he was confused, Gu Zibai suddenly interrupted and said, isn't that the back mountain of Yushan? I haven't seen the sacred water, but there is a mouth of yin-yang spring, and we brought a lot of it. Upon hearing this, Su Tong's eyes gleamed. Yes, the back mountain of Yushan is not accessible to anyone who wants to. If it wasn't Fu Jun's private residence, why would he let that big black dog guard the door? Since there is a yin-yang spring there, could it be the rumored divine spring? Hey, isn't this a coincidence? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1136. Su Tong had plenty of yin-yang spring. When Lao Bai and the others went to find yin-yang spring, Lao Bai deliberately filled several large wine vats with wine vats. These yin and yang springs have very special properties, but Su Tong rarely thinks of it. Occasionally when making elixirs, he will add a little bit under the reminder of the elixir to dissolve the medicinal materials. At this moment, after being reminded by Ame, Su Tong directly took out the yin-yang spring, and then threw the kinkan time stick that was as big as an embroidery needle into it. Seeing the kinkan time stick sinking into it like this, Su Tong still felt very good in his heart. After all, what they said before was all their speculation and there was no real evidence. Moreover, Ame also said that this is just a rumor, and the rumor may not be true, so it is still unknown whether it will be effective. In short, Su Tong didn't dare to take this guarantee, so he could only silently say Fu Jun's blessing in his heart. It might be Su Tong's sincerity, or it might be his luck. After a while, I saw that the wine tank really started to boil. Look, there's movement. Everyone came forward and saw the yin-yang spring in the wine vat starting to rotate. This yin-yang spring usually looked the same as ordinary spring water. But at this moment, after rotating, it is divided into two colors, yin and yang. As the saying goes, yin and yang merge and transform into all things. As the rotation becomes faster and faster, a stream of yin and yang energy spreads out. No, stay away. As soon as Su Tong saw the yin and yang qi, he immediately realized the power of this thing. When he was in Qingcheng Mountain, the old bastard in Qingcheng Mountain didn't follow martial ethics and set up the yin and yang array at the exit of Tianmen. That formation is known as the most amazing formation in the world, and it indeed has the ability to destroy all things. The reason why it is so domineering is precisely because there are two qi of yin and yang in it. In Journey to the West, Tai's Hang Lejun has a treasure vase called the yin and yang qi bottle. This bottle can transform all things and wash away all dust and dirt. The principle is also because there are yin and yang qi in it. Seeing that the yin and yang qi were actually coming out of the wine vat, Su Tong certainly did not dare to be careless. He quickly ordered everyone to avoid it, and at the same time, he used the Yanshu talisman to isolate the surrounding void, and at the same time, he summoned the Great Sun Ruyi furnace to prevent the yin and yang inside. The second gas leaked out. I saw the yin and yang energy in the wine vat getting stronger and stronger, but I heard a roar coming from within. Little beast, how dare you transform me into Nian's Yang? This voice turned out to be that of the old magic stick, but it was not the old magic stick himself, but the spiritual imprint he left on the Kinkan time stick. This spiritual imprint is not ordinary. You don't just want to imprint it. It requires a lot of thoughts to turn your own thoughts into water droplets and keep hitting them. Each impact of thoughts can only leave a very small part of the collapsed spiritual will on it. Just like this, with the effort of dripping water piercing the stone, and constantly carving it with precious thoughts, you can finally leave your own mark. This is not only time-consuming, the key is that it consumes too much, leaving such a mark, and I don't know how many thoughts have been spent on it. If you really follow what Ame said and practice it slowly with the Great Sun Ruyi furnace, God knows how long it will take before the spiritual imprint on it can be worn away. So, thanks to the yin and yang, otherwise Su Tong would have had to leave this thing at home as a decoration. At this moment, the two qi of yin and yang were flowing, and wisps of gold-like things were washed out from the Kinkan time stick. Little beast, you really don't know how high the sky is. The next time I see you, I will tear your body apart and use your blood to sacrifice to me. In the wine vat, yin and yang were flowing, but the old magic stick continued to curse. He also tried to directly control the Kinkan time stick, rush out of the wine vat, and give Su Tong a stick. But the terrible yin and yang energy is the nemesis of this mental thought, just like solid oil stains that come into contact with professional cleaners. Before he could unleash his power, under the influence of yin and yang qi, his thoughts began to disintegrate and turned into little golden fragments. Uncle, I am your nephew. What does it matter if your nephew takes something from you? Your uncle is the one. Su Tong grinned and teased. In the wine vat, the old magic stick's thoughts were rapidly blurring, and he could not gather his will, so he could only let out waves of hoarse roars unwillingly. Not long after, under the washing of yin and yang qi, the mark was completely broken up, floating in the yin and yang qi and difficult to take shape. Su Tong was so ridiculous that he couldn't stop grinning from ear to ear. Ha ha ha, good uncle, dear uncle, knowing that what I lack most in my nephew is strength, he gave it to me. Su Tong will not let go of these glittering broken marks, they are all the result of the old magic stick's huge thoughts. You must know how precious the old god stick's thoughts are as the first generation of gods and the god of time. Even if he gave it to him directly for free, he would have to bear huge risks if he wanted to digest it. Who knows if this old man's idea of Dining will suddenly turn into a human form and kill him. Now he doesn't have to worry, the yin and yang qi have dispelled all his thoughts, and he is not afraid of any trouble caused by this old ghost. Su Tong immediately started to throw all these scattered thoughts into the immortal furnace, intending to refine them into golden elixir first. After losing the control of the spiritual imprint, the silent artifact in the wine vat began to glow brightly. Su Tong directly put it into his palm, and the moment he held it with his fingers, the time stick that was originally the size of a silver needle instantly turned into a long golden stick. Hey, this thing is quite similar to Sun Wukong's golden cudgel. Su Tong held the stick of time and said jokingly, and then he tried to inject his thoughts into it. Suddenly, a huge amount of power of time and years poured into Su Tong's thoughts. At this moment, Su Tong seemed to have the illusion of dominating time, as if he could control the flow of time here just by waving his hand and hitting the stick. What was originally the most helpless time for people has now become a plaything in their hands. It turns out that this is the power of the god of time. Su Tong's heart was surging, and he finally realized the feeling of controlling the power of rules, and even making rules. Good baby, good baby. Su Tong almost laughed to the back of his head. This thing was not only an artifact, but also a stepping stone to comprehend the power of the supreme law. How many gods are there in this vast world? Not to mention anything else, as far as Taoism is concerned, a universal Jiao will enshrine 1,200 god tablets, while the Zhoutian Jiao will enshrine 2,400 god tablets, and the Puxian Jiao will worship 3,600 god tablets. A god position represents a deity, so there are only 3,600 deities in Taoism. Otherwise, those who can be worshipped are all famous gods, at least within the system. In addition, there are the 28 constellations, Juyao Star Official, 12 Yuan Chen, 4-level Gonko, East-West Star Do, etc. Taoism, the Supreme Secret Essentials writes, there are also 3 palaces, 6 houses, 120 joints, and 36,000 gods in the human body. If the human body does evil, the body and spirit will also play the role of the 3 organs. If the human body does good, it will save the immortal names, life, death, sins, blessings, etc. are all influenced by the body and spirit first and correspond to nature. It can be seen that there are many gods, and it is by no means just a few that can often be seen in TV series. Among so many gods, there are not only second-generation gods, but more of them are third-generation, or even fourth-generation gods. There are certainly people with unparalleled talents among them. But how many of them have become powerful gods at the level of Lao Shengu? The answer is almost none. Not to mention the gods of the third generation, even among the gods of the second generation, there are only a few, such as the Queen Mother of the West, etc. These gods who were so ancient that they were born after the creation of the world are qualified to be called the main gods of a party. The rest, it's hard to say. The reason is because they have no stepping stone and no opportunity to touch the power of changing the rules in a single thought. This kind of power is not only rare, but also unattainable. You need stepping stones to build a ladder so that you can touch this power. There is no doubt that the stick of time in his hand at this moment is the stepping stone that allows him to touch the power of rules. With this thing, I can completely get rid of my dependence on item cards and understand higher level power. Thinking of this, Su Tong couldn't help but say to the old magician, "You are really my uncle. For this great gift, I will be sorry if I don't shave my head in the first month." The old magic stick didn't know Su Tong's thoughts, but the moment his spiritual imprint disappeared from the Kinkan time stick, the old magic stick had already felt it. Huh. The old magic stick showed confusion in his eyes, pinched his fingers, and started counting. But after many calculations, there was no result, and I felt more and more weird. The connection between himself and the Kinkan year's stick was completely cut off. There are 2 situations in which this happens. One is that Su Tong used some method to completely shield the Kinkan year's stick. Another possibility is that Su Tong erased all his spiritual imprints on the Kinkan time stick. But of these two possibilities, the old master hardly considers the latter. The universe and time stick has been in my hand for who knows how many years. It is a magical weapon that I have mastered since I was born. The spiritual mark on it is as indestructible as Mount Tai. Even if it is a generation of gods who want to erase the spiritual imprint on it, it will take at least decades, or even hundreds of years, to erase the traces on it. Just him. It's not that he looks down on this kid, but with Su Tong's little deeds, he may not be able to erase his mark even in hundreds, no, thousands of years. This is like the GPS on a mortgaged car. The most you can do is get a jammer, but if you want to remove it all, hey, dream. Just let your kid take care of it for me first. When I'm done with this kid's business, I'll settle the score with you. The old magic stick was holding Chang Logu and Niu Niu in his hands. Now that Niu Niu was dead, he could only find a way to put Chang Logu, the container, on top. As for the Kinkan time stick, the old magic stick didn't believe that Su Tong could control it. As long as the boy dared to untie the shackles on it, his own thoughts would be activated, destroying the Kinkan time stick, and smashing the boy's head with one stick. However, the old magic stick's calculations were ringing in his mind. Little did he know that at this moment, not to mention the GPS, even the big book had changed its name and fell into the hands of Su Tong. If he knew that Su Tong had the yin and yang spring in his hands, the old magic stick would probably cry at this moment. I feel like dying in the toilet. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 1137. Enyi City. Compared with 2 months ago, the city is much more depressed now. Even outsiders like Su Tong and others can clearly feel that the population here has dropped sharply. In fact, Su Tong was not able to change the fate of too many people, and the vast majority of them still developed according to their original fate. For example, Xing Tian Daifeng sacrificed his body, activated a blood curse, and also gave the old magic stick a fatal blow. There are also most people who have become sacrifices to destroy the Juding. But it is undeniable that Su Tong changed the fate of many people and preserved this native world. This was not only a counterattack against the old magic stick, but also a shot in the arm to change his destiny. It is precisely with this cardiotonic that Su Tong is more confident to change himself and everyone's destiny. In the past 2 months, Su Tong and others were still resting and were not in a hurry to enter a place like the battlefield of the gods. Gao Zhou, Li Bo, and even Lao Bai all improved their strength again with the help of the witch cult. The witch cult is a native section. Even in reality, there are still traces of them. It can be said to be all-encompassing and wonderful. Just 2 months is not enough for them to gain some superficial understanding. If time permits, they would rather stay here for several years. It's a pity that Su Tong and the others can't stay here forever. According to the original plan, Su Tong and the others wanted to stay away from the battle of the gods. If you want to fight, you can fight. I will not be cannon fodder. But now the plan has changed. After watching the fateful ending, Su Tong has deeply realized that there is no way to avoid this disaster. The final result of the War of Gods will cause the collapse of all realms, and eventually the destruction of the mirror world will even involve the real world. In the end, the world will return to chaos, and everyone will die. No. Not everyone, at least some people can survive. For example, a few gods such as the Queen Mother of the West will escape into the Bronze Gate of Kunlun Mountain and continue to enjoy the supreme power of the gods and a long life. Until the world is reopened in the chaos, they will continue to jump out and dominate. He had no intention of being a savior, but this was definitely not the ending he wanted to see. Even if it's not for himself, there are many people around him who want to live. The master, the master, the master's wife, the goddess, the sister, the teammates around him, in reality, Gao Zhou's relatives and children, the old friends of the Mei family, Li Bo's mother, etc. Su Tong didn't want to survive as fate pushed him to, and finally recalled these beautiful things in the long loneliness. Therefore, their plan has changed. Since they cannot avoid it, they will face the difficulties and use the fastest and most direct means to plunder and kill, so as to quickly increase their strength and change the fate of this fate. The reason why I haven't set off yet is because I need to make more preparations. After all, the battlefield of the gods is not a good place. As you can tell from the name, it is the real battlefield of the gods. Once inside, the enemies they face are no longer just players, but gods. The god who controls all living beings in the heavens and underworld must increase his strength as much as possible. During this period of time, Su Tong can do three things. The first thing is to refine the elixir, and refine the idea of crushing the old magic stick into a golden elixir. However, the process was not so smooth. The power of the old magic stick's thoughts exceeded Su Tong's expectations. Even under the influence of yin and yang, his thoughts have been shattered and his will cannot be focused together, but the fragmented thoughts still have terrifying power. I tried my best to refine it, but it was always difficult to achieve the effect, so I could only ask the witch cult for help. Li Ziu was happy when he heard about this. Li Wu said that refining medicine belongs to his ancestors and no one interfered in his dispute. So in one fell swoop, the three witch ancestors from Jinkan were sent to Li Wu Palace to stay in front of the alchemy furnace every day to assist Su Tong in refining the pills. Needless to say, with the addition of these three witch masters, Su Tong instantly felt relieved. The methods of alchemy of these three people were different, but their cooperation was extremely tacit. In just a few days, the old magic stick's thoughts began to dissolve. Now that 2 months have passed, the elixir is almost taking shape. With the help of these three people, Su Tong freed up time to complete the second task, to comprehend the 9 Immortals' Cauldron. The 9 inherited secret methods of the 9 Immortals' Cauldron are all aimed at the magical powers created by the gods. Since he was about to enter the battlefield of the gods, Su Tong had to prepare early and thoroughly understand the 9 Immortals' Cauldron as soon as possible. The first inheritance of the 9 Immortals' Cauldron, Su Tong named it Ziziju, which can cleverly seize the methods of the gods and use their methods to give back to others. The second type is Shenfa. Shenfa is as ethereal as dancing and illusory, but it can increase one's lethality by 10 times or even 100 times. Su Tong named it Wuzihu. Now in the past 2 months, Su Tong has realized the third inheritance. This inheritance is very strange. It was not created for gods, but for a method of controlling spiritual restraints. The ability to break all mental control. Su Tong didn't know why there was such a secret method in the inheritance on the 9 Immortals' Cauldron. It was said that the inheritance methods on the 9 Immortals' Cauldron should be aimed at the gods. Every position is extremely precious and should not be occupied by such a technique. After all, there are too many ways to break mind control. Moreover, once the soul turns into a thought, it is too difficult to imprison it. After all, thoughts can take the form of thousands of people. As long as one thought is immortal, there are countless ways to be reborn. Breaking free from confinement is a piece of cake. However, since such a legacy is left on the 9 Immortals' Cauldron, there must be some truth to it. Su Tong named this method Xing Ziju. Although the names of the 3 inheritances were too simple and crude, Su Tong felt that there was no need to give them such lofty names. In fact, if you look at the inheritance of those martial arts with very domineering and bullish names, they are all preparing for the establishment of a sect and bragging rights. Things like the 18 dragon subduing palms, 9 sun divine skills, Biming divine skills, etc., make people feel very awesome when they hear them, and they want to join the sect and learn these awesome skills. But in fact, the 18 palms of subduing the dragon can also be changed to a more down-to-earth point, for example, 10 slaps of subduing the dragon, 18 palms of beating you, 18 moves of away, etc. It's just that this is too detrimental to one's prestige and is not conducive to inheritance. The disciple cannot ask, "Master, what is the secret skill of our sect?" You raised your head and said, "Slap someone's mouth." That way there would be no force. I neither plan to establish a sect nor become famous in the world, so there is no need to worry about such details. In addition, there is a third thing. I must wait patiently here. That is immeasurable luck. This is the passivity of the Book of Destiny. Passive Skill 1, Unlimited Luck. One's own luck shows the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, and the number of the Big Dipper is stronger, the Big Dipper will be completely destroyed, and calamity will be added to one's body. Note, every time you pass a calamity, you can relight the Baidu. In order to deal with this terrible guy, the old magic stick, Su Tong had to sacrifice all the Baidu destiny in exchange for the powerful destiny blessing of Candle Dragon coming to the world. But this also meant that he had to survive a catastrophe before he could replenish his fortune in Baidu. It is easy to say here that with the support of the witch cult, once they go to the battlefield of the gods and disaster breaks out, they will be very passive. So I just waited here to see what this disaster would be. At the same time, a huge rumble sounded on the distant sea surface of Atlantis. Then a dazzling blue light bloomed, rising straight into the sky from beneath Atlantis. Boom boom boom. The terrifying blue light directly vaporized countless residents. What's worse is that the rift continues to expand, even spreading to open a huge hole beneath Atlantis. Not long after, the entire Atlantis was sinking rapidly. At this moment, Ogu was standing in the laboratory, staring at the dazzling blue light beam in front of him with red eyes. I saw a pure and flawless body right in the middle of the beam of light. Different from the clone created by Hagrid, the physical body in front of him was created by concentrating the divine power of 12 high priests, plus Poseidon genes collected from the depths of the ocean, to create a true Poseidon body. In fact, Ogu knew a long time ago that there was an ancient divine corpse beneath Atlantis, and the energy crystals of Atlantis were the companions that overflowed from this corpse. This is the reason why they believe in Poseidon, and they have collected the genes from Poseidon's corpse for cloning a long time ago, and now they have finally succeeded. I saw light blue light flowing on the white skin, forming a gorgeous and noble texture. This is the miracle that Ogu has painstakingly researched, the plan to revive the Poseidon. This is also the reason why Ogu has always occupied a large amount of energy in Atlantis. While Ogu was enthusiastic in his heart, there was inevitably a hint of hatred in his eyes. Because according to his original plan, while completing Poseidon's recovery plan, Genesis would be completed at the same time. With the divine power of creation and the body of Poseidon, he will be crowned the only true God in this world. I am the Lord, Ogu couldn't help shouting out his inner expectations. Only after a moment did he realize that this was just a fantasy. Because that stupid Hagrid lost the most important Genesis, Ogu's heart ached when he thought of this. But it doesn't matter. When he transfers his physical body to the body of Poseidon, he will soon have the power to stand beside the gods. At that time, he can find those damn yellow-skinned monkeys and take back the creation. At this moment, Ogu didn't know that the Genesis that he had been thinking about had been absorbed by Su Tong. Thinking of this, Ogu couldn't wait to let his soul enter this powerful divine body. I saw Ogu's soul slowly breaking away from his body, carrying all the power in his body, and rushing towards the body in front of him. I will become the master of this world, no, even beyond this world. With a scream of happiness, Ogu threw himself at the body in front of him. But just when his soul was about to touch his body, those flawless white palms suddenly grasped Ogu's soul in their hands. How come? Ogu's soul was trembling violently. How could a body without a soul suddenly start to act? But before he could understand what was happening, he saw the eyes of the body in front of him slowly opening, his lips moving slightly, and a strange whispering sound coming out, "God cannot be copied." As he spoke, he pinched his fingers, and Ogu's soul was suddenly crushed and exploded.